Misty,
Amaryllis.
you've been guarding Avery's gate.
I know it's been opened at least once.
I don't think you know what I'm talking
He's
about.
kissing.
Oh, no.
They mean their mouth,
Well, I guess that's true.
right?
Yes, in my mind, because I don't consider kissing to be that big of a deal.
Well, that's what they were talking about. So that's what I figured they meant by
yes,
guarding your
in
gate.
my mind, guarding the gate is
The stuff.
guarding the gate.
Yo, gate. Girl.
Wow. Okay.
Guard your gate.
Hey, everybody. This is Amaryllis.
And Misty.
And this is not the Duggars show. This is On the Doc.
On the dock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Today, we're going to talk about a wonderful documentary.
A lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh. You know what? We've been talking. Misty got to my house 2.5 hours ago.
3 hours ago.
Okay. And for 3 hours, we've been talking about everything under the sun, including this documentary. We even showed our family all the highlights. Because it's so insane.
It's crazy.
So insane. But I'm afraid people are going to get the wrong idea about us.
Okay, so let me just tell you something. Everything we say on this podcast is, of course, our opinion, okay? Which most of the time is right. But
Almost always.
I mean, almost always. But there's some things that you watch and you just go, and this is one of those things. And hey, if this is something you do with your family, bravo.
Now, listen, I suspect that we know several families that, okay, first of all, the documentary is called A Courtship. It's found on Prime.
Right.
I think it's from 2010. It's like a while back. It might be a little bit later. But not.
Either
it's
that
kinda far,
or they
yeah.
just don't dress to date. I think that's
All right.
part of it.
This documentary really fascinates me because I grew up in a very fundamentalist, conservative Christian environment.
Okay.
Not necessarily that kind of household, but that kind of environment because I went to Christian school and it was a very, very conservative school. And I have wonderful memories. I'm not traumatized by it, but I was exposed to this kind of thinking.
I mean, now I was not exposed to this kind of thinking. And let me tell you, I'm a pastor's child. And so I grew up thinking, oh, I'm very sheltered and my parents are very strict. Not according to this.
You may have as well.
These people would have been like, well, they've just gone ahead and pimped her right out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
As far as their thinking is concerned.
All right. So courtship is another way of dating. What is courtship? It is sort of a throwback to, I was going to say the old days, but it's not really even the old days because it's more like the 1400s.
It's basically
ancient days.
It's basically like Christian arranged marriages.
Yes, that's a great way to say that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to say that.
Yeah.
So it's rooted from my perspective, it's rooted in misogyny and oppression.
Yes.
Now, with that said, courtship can be done in a way that does not oppress a woman and that does not create a sense of the man is greater than everything and the woman doesn't know anything. It can be a partnership. It can be from some people that I know, I mean, it can be a great way to have like your family's approval and not just, you picking out somebody and, tossing the dice.
And what we're going to be talking about today is how these people approach courtship.
People.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen courtships in documentaries and other situation and television shows where it's still not my jam and not anything I would want for my child, but it's definitely not what this was, which just made me angry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Real angry.
It's going to be a real struggle. Well, first of all, you and I are just crazy sarcastic and are observational type people, and that's sort of where we get our humor from, is just looking at situations and making crazy observations.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be really hard for us to keep it in check, and sometimes it may seem disrespectful, and I will apologize ahead of time, but you will understand as soon as you watch this movie.
Well, and I have to almost make jokes because what they're saying is so out of the realm of thinking for me that I'm just like, surely, like, there's other things going on here, and I have to like look around and go, let me focus on that because I can't focus on what you just said.
Yeah. It also, watching this also kind of goes hand in hand with purity culture, which is something we didn't even really talk about today earlier.
Right.
But it's something that you and I have talked about in the past. And purity culture is, it was a movement from about 25 years ago where the church was just obsessed with keeping their young women virgins. Didn't really care all that much about their young men, although they made an effort, but not like they did with the girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boys weren't going to purity balls.
No.
It was the girls and their daddies. So there's it all kind of goes hand in hand where it's this obsession among very conservative evangelical churches, of which we're part of. We're not against all of that at all. That's where I don't want people to kind of get the wrong idea.
Yeah.
And so, but it begs, like, it just brings that whole part of the conversation into it too when you watch this, because I think they go hand in hand.
Well, and again, it's not, I want people to understand it's not a judgment.
No.
It's just basically how.
Well, I'm going to keep it real. I am totally judgmental of these people.
Oh, well, now I'm judgmental of these people.
These people.
But I'm saying, like, in the way in which you teach your children about purity.
Yes.
I try not to be judgmental of
yeah.
other people and how they do it with their children, but I will speak to how I raise my children, how I was raised, and why I feel the way that I do.
Yeah. So Courtship came into the zeitgeist with the Duggars.
Yeah.
A lot of people, now I had heard of Courtship just because, again, I grew up in this.
That was my first experience, was watching Old 19 Kids and Counting.
Right. So I had been exposed to it as a young teenager with people that I knew and this small school that I went to. And now not everybody did it, but I had just seen it in action.
Right.
And so it kind of came, though, into the big picture, into popular culture with the Duggars, because that's how they go about marrying their children. They don't date.
Right.
They family date. Mm-hmm. They family date.
Yeah.
Like the dad picks somebody and says, "Hey, you interested in my child?" The guy goes, "Yeah, maybe."
Yeah.
And they go out on family dates and they side hug.
Which, when you think about it, like, if it was a situation where it was, oh, well, hey, I really like this guy and I want my family to be part of this decision. It's a huge deal. I want to bring him in and get their thoughts and their approval and things like that. That's a whole different thing. Like, you don't get to pick who you're going to court.
Yeah.
Your father picks them.
Your father interviews and picks that person.
And has a relationship with them first.
Yeah.
Before he allows them to have a relationship with you.
Now, that's where this movie becomes crazy. We're going to get to it in a second, but that's where you know what? I wish every person that was within the sound of my voice would get on Prime right now, Amazon Prime right now. Turn this podcast off. Get on Amazon Prime
and
do yourself the favor of watching this movie, because the things you will hear us say, you will not believe.
It's called Courtship.
A Courtship. It's on
Amazon
Prime. Okay.
Yeah.
This movie really can only be described as misogynistic. Familiar with the word misogyny?
Yes.
Misogyny is very male. It's all about women are, misogyny is just the man is greater than the woman.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They have a problem with ladies going to college. They have a problem with, the problem is that if they go to college, they get an apartment and then they lose the protection of a man. So you can't go to college.
Right.
Can't go to college. This particular man believes that courtship prevents divorce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lead guy, his name is Ron Wright. He's got a unique look.
Yeah. So let's open this up for you. So you come into this documentary in this modest house, and it's a man, Ron, and his wife Dawn, and they have two young girls,
Savannah and something else.
And then you see that there's this like 30. Is she 33?
She's 33 years old. Yes,
33-year-old woman living with them, and this lady has decided that
her name is Kelly.
Her name is Kelly. This lady has decided that she has come to this awakening that the reason that she's not married yet is because she's been doing it all wrong. And she has chosen...
She's been praying for a spiritual family.
And Ron and Dawn have offered their services. And she has moved in with them. And he is going to basically allow Ron... I want to call him Ron and Dawn.
It's basically a built-in dating service, courtship service.
So he becomes her spiritual father, mentor, and he's going to help her find a man to court her.
Right. Okay. So Misty. So this girl, Kelly, who's just a sweet young lady, and she seems to have a little bit of arrested development. She seems to have just an inability to, she has no confidence in herself.
Yeah.
She's very low self-esteem. At least, I don't know her. I mean, that's just what comes across.
Right.
And she just wants to be married, man. She just wants to be married. Yeah. So at 33 years old, or rather at 20-something years old, she asked this family, can you please be my spiritual family?
Yeah, because
so Ron Wright looks at this woman. She's blonde. She's young. She's already their babysitter. And he says, I talked to my wife. My wife says, I've got great wisdom.
Yes.
And that the only way I can really serve you in this capacity is if you move in with us. Now, Misty.
Move in with us.
Do you think this man, knowing the rest of his family, looks at this 20-something-year-old young woman and doesn't say, jackpot?
Hey, hey.
I mean...
Well, yeah, of course.
The next thing we see, Kelly is vacuuming. She's feeding their chickens.
Yes.
She is in the kitchen, I assume cooking.
Oh, yeah.
She is cleaning while the woman's reading a book. We know she already keeps their kids.
Yeah.
All in exchange for that twin-size bed in the basement.
Oh, girl. And it's luxury, let me tell you.
Yeah, in my mind, Ron Wright was like, oh, my word. She has asked
she shall
to
receive.
Work here in exchange to find her a boyfriend.
And at this point, she has lived with them how many years?
7 years. 7 years. And then by the time the documentary's over or something, it's like 10 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
So she, at the elderly age of 23, 24, decided that it had been such a long time that she had not been asked to be married that she had to resort to this.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And let us give you just a little picture of our friend Ron. Okay?
This is terrible.
Now, if I'm looking for someone to help me in marriage, in my mind, I'm going to go for somebody that I want my marriage to look like. I'm just going to say that cosmetic dentistry is not at the top of their
you know what?
their things
dentistry
to do. Dentistry in general.
In general.
Yeah.
Yes. Look, folks, Misty and I are very, very attractive.
Extremely. These
so
teeth,
we feel like we can pass judgment.
Yeah. These teeth
on
are
this.
natural. They've never had a brace on them. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that. And I'm not against people with a little something going on. Like, my kid's got a real characteristic tooth, and I tell her that gives you character.
That's
and
how it is.
That's how it is.
I got a tooth that's been moving for the last 10 years over. It makes me look like
yeah.
I have no tooth at the bottom.
Yeah, you've got too much good things going on for you, so you need that to keep you humble.
That is the truth.
But he's got some things going on that preventative work could have really, really helped him out.
Well, Misty, he has put in all of his money.
Yes.
Has gone towards product for his courtship website.
What is the name of that thing?
Beforethekiss.com.
Beforethekiss.com.
I don't even know if it's still live. I don't have any idea.
Yeah. And can we also talk about one of their huge sticking points, okay, with the courtship, is the whole process. They have a lot of rules, okay? So Amarilla's kind of touched on this before, but so when you're in a courtship, it's very strict.
Yeah.
Of course, Ron, her spiritual father, is going to kind of weed out these men.
Yes.
And see which one's the best and have a relationship with them. We'll talk about that relationship in just a moment. I'm going to let you talk about that.
Yes.
But then afterwards, he has to monitor all of their communication. If they go on any kind of a date, they have to have a chaperone with them at all times. And physically, they are not to kiss or
They can side hug or something, I think.
maybe they
at
can
some
side
point.
hug or shake hands
Yeah.
or something. But
No,
before
there's no physical anything.
no physical anything, and they can't have any alone time
Yeah.
at all. Grown people.
Interestingly enough, though, Misty, there are all these rules set for courtship. They are prepared to get her in a courtship, but she has been living with them for 7 years, and she has never been in a courtship. So that tells me that Ron has got ulterior motives with this young lady.
Emerald, that is what we call in the younger community sus. Short for suspect.
Oh, I had no idea.
Suspicious.
Or trafficking.
Or kidnapped.
Yes, yes.
One or the
Blink
other.
if you are okay.
Yeah, blink
Yeah.
if you are okay.
Yeah, because she even said it. She said, in the time I've been here, there has never been a time where there has someone that I have been interested in that has also been interested in me.
Right. There's never been one.
And then they show Ron interviewing this very handsome man about her age, maybe a little older.
A little older.
He says, "What are you interested in?" He says, "I'm interested in a woman who loves God and is spiritual, and that's pretty much the most important thing to me." And Ron says,
Yeah.
"Well, hey, what do you think about Obama and Israel?"
Because let me tell you something. Ron really asked the hard-hitting questions.
And yes.
And do you watch Glenn Beck?
And do you watch Glenn Beck? But the thing that the thing that prevented this lovely man who could have already been married to Kelly was, do you believe an elder can be a homosexual and not practicing? Like a non-practicing homosexual can be an elder in a church.
Right.
And the guy goes, well, yeah, I think that'd probably be okay.
Yeah.
Cut to Ron saying, this is not going to work out.
This is not going to work. And that, my friends, you're going to need to do a pause on to really capture the dentistry problems.
We gotta stop.
If I could just get our
Y'all, again, please stop right now. I wish I had a time signature to tell you exactly.
I wish I had something because we stopped it. It took my breath away.
It is breathtaking.
It's breathtaking. So
awful people.
So
Oh my gosh.
we see that Ron is really doing some hard work here for Kelly. And the question I'm asking myself is that how many years do you go, maybe this isn't God's plan?
Yes. Thank you.
I mean,
You know, it reminds me, I'm sure you've heard this. It's the old story of where there's a man, he's caught up in a flood, and he's like, oh, God's going to save me.
Right.
So God sends the boat. No, God's going to save me.
God's gonna do it.
God sends the whatever. No, God's going to save me.
Yeah.
And then the airplane comes. No, don't worry. God gets to the heaven, and he goes, well, I sent you the boat. I sent you the car. I sent you the airplane, and you did.
you take any of
This
them.
is the exact same thing that's happening.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like, and this is where I really try to instill in my kids. I've heard people talk about spiritual mentors, and I've heard people talk about those kind of things, and that's all well and good. But you need to get your information from the Word of God, and for you to have your own relationship with God,
Yeah.
to hear Him speaking to you. Because guess what? I did not really feel like God was telling Ron what Kelly needed. Okay.
Ron looked down at his carpet and said, it is not quite vacuumed.
It is not quite vacuumed enough.
There's a spot on the counter.
No courtship yet. You're
No
not quite
courtship.
ready.
Not quite ready.
You're not quite ready.
Maybe in another 7 years.
Right. Maybe in another 7 we can get
When
this thing
you are
going.
no longer able to have children.
Exactly. Let's wait on those eggs to dry up.
Yes. I mean, this whole thing incenses me.
Yeah.
Friends, I need to warn you, put something around your remote that won't hurt your television because you will want
You're
going to
want to throw it.
You're going to want to throw it against your
Yeah.
television.
Now, one of the things that really I feel like, and we watched this scene together again, is they have really used this to build in a lot of guilt with
Yes.
Kelly. So Kelly did not come to the epiphany that she needed to be in a courtship until later on in life. And of course, as most girls do, she had dated and she
didn't grow up in courtship, which is typically
Right.
how you end up in a courtship.
Right.
Yeah.
This was new to her, and so of course she had dated the other way as a teenager. And what do teenagers do when they date?
They kiss their boyfriends.
We're
We're not talking about she's having raucous intimacy
Right.
with this young man. She kissed him.
We're talking about kissing.
We're talking about kissing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which to them is probably as bad as murder.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's as immoral to them as premarital sex.
Oh,
or, yes.
Same thing.
And that it makes me so angry, Misty, because it just angers me so much. So there's this book now. Ron and Dawn, I never realized how that rhymed. And
I know.
It's ridiculous. Ron and Dawn are raising their girls. They have 3 girls. I think they have a baby too, right? Did we ever see a baby?
No.
We saw the babies at the beginning with that other couple.
Yeah.
Okay, they have 2 daughters, like a 14, 15-year-old and what looks to be like 8, 9, 10 years old. We have a lot to say about those girls also, but I think we're going to have to hold back. We're just going to let you make your own judgment when you see them.
They're not going to have a problem keeping boys away.
Send your cards and letters to Misty. That's MISTY at don'tsendletterstoamaryllis.com.
I'm just going to say they take after their mom and dad.
All right. Okay. There's a lot.
Y'all are going to have to pay for this podcast episode.
All right. Okay. All right. That was Misty, just in case y'all don't get it confused. That was not Amaryllis. Okay.
Okay.
P.S. Ron is so arrogant. He's so arrogant.
Oh my gosh.
So arrogant.
Y'all, can
And
we
you
just
look at this guy's family and you would think, I look at the Duggars and I think this
Beautiful.
courtship has worked for them.
Beautiful people.
They have beautiful children. Their marriages seem to be good, except for the latest news. But
Right.
notwithstanding,
Right.
they just seem like this works for them. And some of those older kids have said, this doesn't work for me, so we're going to get married and we're just going to move on. And that's fine.
Let me say
but
this.
What's happening?
The Duggar girls can even make a long skirt look good.
They are
okay?
gorgeous.
They're beautiful, beautiful girls.
They're a beautiful family with a track record of success.
And I'm not saying that these couldn't be, but they've not been taught. And it shows.
Hey, listen, listener.
I can't hear
Okay.
Please don't let this
podcast and not laugh. Okay.
Hey, 38 listeners, don't tell anybody about this episode.
Please do not share this on your news feeds. Please.
Don't share it.
Don't share it.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody hear this. Okay. All right. So, Ron and Dawn have these 2 girls.
Yes. They've
All right.
taught.
So we're about to kind of get into how they're raising their family, so that they don't get into this pickle of being 33 and unmarried.
Right, because that's the worst thing that
Yes.
could happen to you.
That's when I got married.
Well,
33 years old.
Amaryllis, if you had visited Dawn a little sooner,
I wish I had moved in with Ron.
and Ron, he
I
would
wish I
have
had moved
he
in
would have
with
helped
Ron.
you out.
So he wouldn't have let me kiss my husband before I got married. So that's
They would have put the letter A on me,
and not for Amaryllis.
not for Amaryllis.
No.
They would have been like, those lips
okay.
have
so
touched
now
so many
Ron
other
says
lips.
that he and his wife were raised very differently, and when they got together, it was
Carnal physical attraction.
physical attraction. Oh my gosh, we cannot.
And let me tell you, did they have the pictures to prove it?
It is sizzling.
It is hot. Hot stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, and they
I'm
they
gonna say,
ended up with an emotional divorce, he says.
but it did not stop him from getting every souvenir T-shirt he could find on every road trip.
lust on their part. And so they were married for 7 years. And then they just, because it was based not on something else,
Right.
they got an emotional divorce. Mm-hmm. Well, then they got it together.
Yes.
Okay. And renewed their marriage. Mm-hmm. They have these children, and they want to raise these girls differently.
We're not going on that
so
path.
they are teaching them from the moment, he said, from the time they were babies and they were in my lap, I was reading them The Princess and the Kiss. Let's talk about The Princess and the Kiss. It can only be described as extra biblical indoctrination.
It is extra crazy.
This book guilts young women into not kissing for fear that their marriage will fail.
They
were lap babies reading this.
They've also made kissing look like a ball of light so that when it comes time, they have no idea what they're doing and try to eat each other's faces off.
Do yourself a favor and search first wedding kiss on YouTube. Listen.
You will think
Missy
you're watching The
are
Walking Dead.
We're here to serve our very large audience.
Yes.
And to entertain you. Today we're seemingly only entertaining ourselves.
Y'all.
But you need to search for that. Anyway, so this book, it's just a fairy tale, and it goes on and on about how, basically the prince had saved his first kiss for his wife, and that was what God wanted.
Right.
Which, listen, that's a whole other conversation. That this is where the purity culture comes in, right?
Right.
Meanwhile,
we're just going to make up
Kelly
rules
is in the
that
background. Kelly's in the background listening to this, crying.
Her eyes out.
She's crying. Missy, it made me so angry. There were so many things to be incensed about on this documentary, but I think that was probably towards the top of the list for me because the guilt that young woman felt for having kissed somebody in her teenage years or in her early 20s. I mean, the guilt she felt, she said, I'm just sorry I don't have my first kiss to give to my husband. Now, I want to be very clear. We are not mocking if you want to save your first kiss, okay? What I don't want is to guilt anybody.
No.
Yes, we're talking about a kiss.
Or tell you that you're going to be less of a wife because you didn't.
Yes.
And that your husband will be so disappointed.
Yes.
And that will be one of the things she said that made me so incredibly angry is, they're talking about this kiss and everything, and she says, if I give away my first kiss before I give it to my husband, I won't be giving him everything. It's a treasure. Let me go ahead and tell you something.
Yeah, they keep calling it a treasure.
Yeah, and these little girls are just spouting out the things that their parents have taught them.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something that's real dangerous, and that's teaching your child that you should be your husband's everything, and your husband should be your everything.
Yeah.
That's not biblical. How about God's your everything?
Oh, yeah.
And then your husband, and then your children, and then others. But to say that not having your first kiss with your husband, well, you've just destroyed everything.
Well, Misty, what if these girls get married, their husband deconverts or decides that, in the case of the Duggars, child pornography is a lot better than his wife, or any number of things. He just decides that she's not the woman for him.
Right.
She is going to forever think it was because she did not save her first kiss for her husband.
Right.
It's her fault.
It's your fault.
It's her fault.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And this book says, the last line says, like when the king or whoever saves the kiss and they finally kiss, and the line says, God and all the kingdom sang for happiness. And I'm like, are these things supposed to be based in scripture?
And also, when did your first kiss become your dad's?
Never. Yeah.
That's weird.
That is very weird. Well, that goes along again with purity culture, where we talked about these purity balls, where I was fortunate that, first of all, there was a culture gap in my home because I grew up in a different culture, or like bicultural,
right?
American and Cuban household, like American culture in a Cuban household, so we didn't have to deal with that. Plus, I was a little bit older than purity culture. But this is where churches would have these big banquets, balls. Daughters would come with their fathers, and they would basically get married.
What?
At these purity balls. They would get married to their dads.
What?
Well, not in real life, not really, but sort of spiritually, like they belong to their dad right now until the dad gives them away to their husband. And so that's where the purity rings come from, is they give them purity rings to symbolize that they will remain virgins until they are married. Yeah. It's jacked up.
I've heard
It's
of the
jacked
rings, but I have never heard of the balls.
Oh, yes.
That's
Purity
a whole
balls were huge at that time.
level
I don't know that they still do them. It
of
was sort
odd.
of a thing that happened over that True Love Waits campaign, which, have a lot to say about. I posted about this on Facebook when I told folks we were going to do this. I got so many emails, messages, people telling me about their experiences. I had somebody tell me about their experience and their purity ring, where I don't want to say because it could identify some folks, but it's really jacked up because it messes you up in the head. If you really want to help your child have a good marriage, you need to set them up for success.
You're also having children.
And virginity is not what sets you up for success.
Right. And you're having children make covenants about adult things.
Yeah, it's like when the Scientologists make you sign that billion-year
Right.
pledge when you're 4 years old.
Yeah. And I mean, what is a kid going to do? Say, no, I don't want to sign that?
Yeah, no, they love it because they're indoctrinated at that point.
Right.
Yeah, and I hate to use those words because a lot of times that's because I understand Christian culture. I love the church and I love God and I love the Bible and I love the teachings of Jesus because that's who we worship and that's that he's our identity.
Right.
But it makes me so sad at the twisting of what the intention of all of these quote unquote rules, which aren't rules necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me, but
to me, it's parents setting up fail safes for their children not to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the worst things you can do is to set up a perfect existence for your kids where they never have the opportunity to fail or make a mistake. Because guess what? Then they become adults who don't know how to fail and make mistakes. Yeah. And so it's not that I don't care about my kids. It's not that I don't want to see them make worry. I mean, good grief, I'm the most worrisome person in the world. But I don't want to set up a life for them where I have told them who they can talk to, what they can talk about, where they can go, all these different rules that aren't even really biblical, number one. They're not biblical, and pick out the boys that they can try to have a relationship with, because basically I'm asking my daughter to marry someone I would want to marry.
Oh, it's all about control.
Yeah.
It's about
someone
control.
I would want to marry and not someone they want to marry. And then afterwards, I've put them in a relationship with all these safeguards where I'm listening into their conversations. They're never going to be real. They're never going to have real talks. They're never going to talk about struggles. They're never going to, have those late night conversations where you feel like you know this person and you want to share things.
Intimacy.
Intimacy that's not sexual.
That's not sexual. It doesn't have to be.
But that's real. And things that you need to know about someone before you know if that's someone you want to spend the rest of your life with.
Right. And getting your heart broken is not awful.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Because I would rather that happen in this stage of the game than after you've had this courtship. Yeah. And perhaps we don't understand courtship because we're not part of it. And maybe there is a component of where they do get to spend a lot of time by themselves. But as near as I can tell, and from watching this, it's just they get no time by themselves because of the fear of giving in to the temptation of physical activity. Right.
And let me tell you this is what I explained to Avery, okay? Avery's my child that has been the one that has dated. And I explained to her, I want you to be very cautious about who you give your heart to, okay?
Sure.
You may go on lots of dates. I don't have any problem. I mean, dates are ways of getting to know someone. It's a fun activity. It's going out. You may go on one date and go, that didn't really, we're not really,
down for that,
we're
yeah.
not compatible. But giving your heart to someone and quote unquote becoming their girlfriend is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I don't go about that lightly. I didn't let her start dating until high school, and I felt like she was mature enough to make that decision. And she's had her first little boyfriend. They dated like a month and a half.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was
Not
the
really
little
boyfriend,
thing.
yeah.
And her second one, she's been with
2 years.
almost 2 years, yeah. But that's something that we don't take lightly.
Yeah, it's
but
important.
you learn from those experiences.
Yeah.
You learn. I want her to know what a red flag is.
Yeah.
I want her to know that when she goes on a date with someone and something doesn't feel right, that's God telling you, hey, you know, you need to be more mindful and watchful of this person. They may not be who you had thought they were in the beginning.
Yeah.
You learn a lot of lessons through things like heartbreak and things like dating, because you need to figure out what you want in your spouse and what's
Also,
important to you.
If you're, let's see how I can say this. If your only focus is their physical intimacy, which is, I believe, at the root of courtship.
That's all they care about.
That is all it is. If your only fear about your child in this relationship is that they will get a kiss or at worst have sex, which I think we can both agree is not ideal at 16, 17 years old.
Absolutely.
And certainly not how we're growing up teaching our girls. You know, we have a biblical worldview.
Right.
But kids are kids and they will struggle with this. And what's a real good way to get them to not talk to you about it?
Is tell
guilting
them
them.
that it's a sin to even think about it.
To even think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to even think about it, or that it's not natural, or that it will be horrible. That's what the purity culture,
Right.
purity movement did. It's horrible. It's very, very painful, but it's magically okay after your wedding day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had a number of people message me about that, about the struggles that they had, even on their wedding night, trying to get over that mindset of, I have been told this is. You know, they've got this whole dichotomy going where they're married and they love their husband and they're very attracted and definitely want to take that. Obviously, the next step, they're married, but they can't get over what they've been told it's going to be like, and there's just no. It's the guilt that comes along with this sort of mindset I don't want for my own child. I want her to be chaste, and I want her to know that the value of that
Right.
is not because your marriage is going to be better or worse.
Right.
That's not what it is.
Yeah.
It like their virginity is, first of all, her virginity is not mine.
Right.
It's not her dad's.
Yeah.
And it's not an idol.
Well, you know, I try to explain it to Avery like this. Avery's virginity is hers.
Yeah.
Her relationship with God is hers.
Yeah.
And so she has to have a conviction about that.
Yeah.
I can't force a conviction on her.
Right.
I can teach her.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's our job to train her,
Right.
right? It's our
It is-
job to make sure she understands
Right.
why we
Why it's
say
important,
this.
and you know, not only biblically but physically and for health and other reasons. But I never wanted to raise my kids that sex is bad, because
because it isn't.
It's not. And that's how I think that my parents didn't raise me that sex was bad, but that sex was a sin. And so it's sex is a sin, sex is a sin, sex is a sin. And then you get married and you need to be having sex all the time.
Yes.
And so it's so confusing for especially young women, because
Forget it. None of this applies.
none
to
of
the
this
men.
applies to boys.
Yeah, no. Mm.
I mean, they're taught about it, but in a very different way than girls are. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm even guilty of it myself, because you worry so much about your daughter.
Oh, sure.
Because guess what? If my child makes a mistake as a female, then she's labeled.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
If my child makes a mistake as a boy, he's just being a boy.
he's being a boy.
Right. And so I never wanted to raise my children to believe that sexual sin was more sinful than any other sin.
Yeah.
And we have a very loving and forgiving God, and they have a very loving and forgiving mama.
Yeah.
And so if that was to happen, I never wanted them to be afraid to come to
Oh
me.
my gosh, that is the big thing.
You know?
And also, Misty, it's a real good way to make sure that they don't love God and that they don't stay in church. And
Absolutely.
That it's just a real good way for them to reject their faith.
Mm-hmm.
If they think that they have these feelings that seem natural, but they don't want to be part of a group that
And don't
is
talk
holding
about
back.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to make it very clear, we're not suggesting that we should allow our children to go out and have sex willy-nilly.
No. No.
We're just saying there's a better way than purity balls.
Right. Well, and also my children's purity is not a responsibility of the church.
Oh,
My
gosh,
children's
preach it.
purity is the responsibility of mine, and when they become of age, of theirs.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not a public profession. Yeah. It's not something that I feel like needs to be paraded, because guess what? A lot of kids have sex. They just do.
They do.
I mean, and
Even
a lot of
Christian children.
even Christian
and
children.
there's such shame. Yeah.
And a lot of young women struggle with shame and guilt, and so much when they walk down that aisle, because a lot of our girls are taught that if you make that mistake, you've ruined yourself
Right.
for your husband.
Yeah.
You have ruined yourself for this magical thing that you've been waiting for. And, oh yeah, God will forgive you, but nobody will forget. And that's devastating.
Don't burden them with this guilt of,
Right.
anyway.
And it has nothing to do with you're bad or
Right.
you're a shameful, like you should have a shame because you had those urges or those feelings.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that. You're a human being. You're going to have those urges. You're going to have those feelings. God put those things into us
Yeah.
so that we would be attracted
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
opposite sex.
Totally.
And so, you know, they struggle with that because they're scared to bring it up, because if I bring it up, well, then they're going to think I want to have sex. And then if they think I want to have sex, then they're going to think I am having sex. And then I'm a sinner. And it
It's a
becomes
mess.
all about
Yeah.
the physical act and not the thing that God wants us to remember, which is he doesn't want us having sex before marriage because it separates us from him.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. That is the bottom line. That's the
Right.
bottom line. All right. We have spent a lot of time on this purity culture, but we've got to get to
Let's get back to
courtship.
we were at the storybook, and where Kelly gets all upset. And let me tell you something that really burned me up about Dawn is she's over there, she's crying, and Amaryllis talked about how she said she was upset because she didn't save her first
guilt.
kiss,
Yeah.
and she felt guilty about it. And Dawn says, with a smile on her face, now this little girl she's not a little girl, she's 33, but she's crying and she's upset about it. And Dawn says, can't get it back.
She was awful.
Thanks a
The
lot.
self-righteousness
Dawn.
in that woman is unbelievable. We'll see in a minute how self-righteous she is.
Yeah. And she looks at her daughter and she says, Daddy and I will guard your gate. You aren't going to let a wolf or a lion come in.
Misty,
So
I'm
now-
struggling right now to say something so ugly, and I can't because she's a child.
I know. So you're going to have to cut off. So first off, we now have I don't know if she's talking about her mouth because we're talking about kissing, or if we're talking about
Her gate?
her vagina. I mean, I don't know what we're talking about. But
said it.
Daddy and her are going to guard her gate, and
Which is gross.
we aren't going to let a wolf or a lion in, which now men have become predators.
Predators.
And they're only after, I guess, your meat. I don't know. I mean, that's
I didn't see that one coming. Okay.
that's how I read it.
Okay. Yeah, they're predators now, but after you're married, they're not predators. They are your protector.
Oh, then they're your protector, and they.
It's that magic day when you say I do.
Amaryllis, you should be ashamed of yourself for not saving your first kiss for the lion that was coming to devour you. I mean, it is so contradictory.
It's so
and ridiculous.
crazy. It's so, and they do it. They say it like with such self-righteous indignation.
And can we just talk in real talk for a second? Okay, so obviously I didn't save my first kiss.
I did not either.
I was
Confession.
kissing who would ever kiss me. And not really. But I mean, I had
I understand.
I had several little boyfriends and
Yeah,
stuff.
I understand.
And I have not made it a point to
Did it
Avery,
ruin your
obviously,
marriage?
to save her first kiss, because she'd be posting them kiss pictures at prom. Y'all, these people would hang us up. Anyway, I think it's sweet. But now you've got this man who you've pledged your life to. You're going to marry him. He's going to be your husband. You've not spent enough time together alone to probably even get within breathing distance of each other.
Correct.
And you get to the altar, and this man's...
Knowing this group's history with dentistry.
Right. And then you arrive at the altar for this magical first kiss you have saved your entire life. And this man opens his mouth, and it smells like an elephant is taking a dump in it. What are you going to do?
That was oddly specific.
What are you going to do?
That was oddly specific.
Let me tell you, my daddy, God rest his soul, and he was a minister, and he was funny, just like me. But I had a young man that came around, and my daddy, who was always complimentary of everybody, came to me, and he said, "You like that little boy?" And I said, "I mean, I think so." And he said, "Well, be honest, I got close to him, and it smelled like an elephant's good jump in his mouth."
Reconsider, Misty. What he said is reconsider.
He said, "So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you might want to invest in some Lifesavers peppermint."
All right. So, so in the fall, Kelly somehow starts communicating with this young man named Ross.
They finally found somebody.
She's finally found somebody. She goes to Ron and she says, "Hey, I'm interested."
Don't eat my pretzels.
That was not me. That was Misty talking to my
It's a
cat.
cat trying to eat my pretzels.
Yeah, one of my 8,000 cats in my house. So Kelly comes to Ron and says, "Hey, I've started talking to somebody online, and I want you to scope it out because Ron has to interview anybody that she quote dates. It's not really dating; it's the courtship."
And let me tell you what Ron does not have a problem with, and that's hanging out with new dudes.
He loves young men.
He loves a new young man.
Look, I'm not trying to imply anything. I'm just saying he loves to hang out with these young men.
I'm going to say he spent too much time in that house with all those girls.
I'm going to say he probably spent a good while stalking Ross's pictures on Facebook.
Y'all.
Yeah. Okay, so Ross, he's a relatively cute little guy, and I don't know how old he is. He seems a little younger than Kelly. Mm-hmm. So Ross meets him, and
He's got a smile that really joins in with the rest of the family.
Yes, he seems lovely. He seems like a nice man. So they invite him over to dinner. Yeah, they invite him over to dinner. Ron, as is with Courtship, he does not come alone. He came with his brother.
Yeah,
who's 20 years old, and
was he 20? His brother was 20?
20.
He looked all of 11 years old.
He's 19 or 20 because remember, Savannah is only 5 years older than Savannah.
Oh, and they were really hoping they could get them
together. And they were
together.
hoping they'd get a double whammy here.
Yeah.
So the best part of this dinner to me, first of all, the only word that can describe it is awkward. It is painfully awkward because none of these people know each other. Kelly does not know how to hang out with a man.
No.
She has no idea how to deal with a man. And it's worse because not only does Ross have to get her approval, he has to get Ron's approval. And Ron, it's got to be Ron's approval because if Ron tells Dawn that the sky is purple, she'll say okay.
Then Dawn
That's
said
his wisdom.
Wisdom.
So as long as Ron says everything's okay, Dawn says it's okay. And then that means that it was so stinking awkward. I felt so bad. And my favorite was when she goes, "Candy corn?"
What a pickup line.
That's what she likes. I mean, they're just standing randomly. It was total quiet. Randomly, she goes,
they're all awkwardly smiling
"Candy
at each
corn."
other. Candy corn?
Yeah.
And another thing that was real disturbing to me was watching Ross eat that dinner, and he said, "Well, this is delicious meat."
And then it just stays quiet. It just hangs in the air. This
Yeah.
was delicious meat.
Yeah.
It is really awkward. Really awkward. They ask him if he grew up in in courtship culture, and he goes, yeah, I mean, I was part of that. He was homeschooled. It's just.
Can I tell you another thing about Ross that I love? Ross has got some talents, and now you'll notice
Now,
when
Ross.
he smiles, he's got a dark tooth, which I assume has been injured by playing a smooth jazz saxophone.
Smooth stylings.
Because let me tell you, if he does not win her over with that personality, he's
That
going to
saxophone will.
play a little Kenny G.
No, he does not play Kenny G because that is secular.
Oh,
Secular.
He's
Kenny
gonna-
G also is Jewish, which is a triple whammy.
oh
because-
no!
Yes.
Well-
Yeah.
Did the Gaithers do any jazz sax?
Jazz, sax, doubtful.
Well,
Yeah. Yes. Now, it sort of goes, it's kind of that whole culture because in that quiverful, which they don't seem to be quiverful, but typically courtship is part of that quiverful movement. The kids will definitely learn an instrument or two, and it's just like, it makes sense to me that Ross would play as a homeschooler. He would continue to play the saxophone. You know, it's not like he went to the marching band to play the saxophone.
Yeah.
You know? This was a choice.
that'd have been a real small marching band.
This was a choice. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yes. Hey, did you notice that after they finished praying, they clapped? It was a round of applause.
Good job.
It was a round of applause for the prayer.
Well, Ron does everything so well.
Oh, my gosh.
Did you also notice that when Ross walks in, he hugs Ron and Dawn and awkwardly shakes Kelly's hand?
Very awkwardly.
And then Kelly was worried about it. She was like, I don't even know if we're supposed to be doing this.
Right.
What?
This is the problem. You cannot develop any sort of relationship this way. This is so jacked up, Misty. It's so jacked up.
No, and I'm sorry, but y'all, how in the world are you going to tell people you have to stay apart? You can't spend any time together. You can't kiss. You can't hold hands. But in one single day, this man who you've never had a real conversation with
Bam.
is going to penetrate you. I mean, I hate to put it that way,
Yeah.
but it gets real fast
Yeah.
up on that wedding night.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me that's healthy?
It's not healthy.
I mean, I'm not saying to be poking around down there before you're married, but I'm saying you have to at least have a intimacy with one another.
Absolutely. You can't be scared of your partner.
Right. Not physically, but you got to at least know the guy a little bit.
Yeah, you can't be scared. Yeah.
And
you gotta trust him. And how are you gonna learn to trust him
And also-
without that non-sexual intimacy?
And also in this setup, you can't say just kidding. Like, or I changed my mind.
Yeah, it's
Like,
done.
you're set for life.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Ross calls Ron, or Ron calls Ross, and he says, hey, I've decided I really would like to court Kelly. And Ron comes home after that meeting and calls a meeting with Dawn in the van.
Dawn, I'm going to need you to join me in my office. And he slides back that rolling door.
They don't have the extra. So they went to the van and they sat in the van and talked. And Ron says, hey, Ross. Ross says that he really wants to court Kelly.
Yeah.
And Dawn says, that's fantastic. She's going to be very excited.
Uh-huh.
And he says, well, he doesn't want us to tell her.
He said, let's keep it a secret. And she goes, I think that's a great idea. You're so...
We don't want her to get her too excited.
You're full of wisdom, because Kelly will get too excited.
Kelly will get too excited.
And what happens to a woman when she gets too excited?
Obviously, she's going to want to have sex.
Obviously. And when he pulls out that jazz saxophone, forget it. It's all over
wrote.
with.
That is all she wrote.
All
All right,
over
so
with.
now they're courting and they go on their first family date.
Right.
And they go to see some sort of Christian ballet where the Holy Spirit is dancing. Because Ron goes, who's the person in white supposed to be? Kelly is sitting down And then Ross is next to her, and Ron is sitting. So basically, Ron and Kelly are on a date with Ross.
Yes.
And Ron can't keep up with what the heck is going on in this ballet.
And Ron's in the middle.
And Ross is in the middle. And Ron leads over to Ross and says, "Who's the person in white?" Ross says, "Kelly." "Who's the person in white?" Kelly says, "Ross, it's the Holy Spirit." Ross says, "Ron, hey, it's the Holy Spirit."
It's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what are they upset?
Kelly's a dance teacher, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why they went to this thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've never been to a ballet where the Holy Spirit is actually a character in the ballet. It just seems a little bit.
Nor have I.
It seems a little bit weird. Okay, so at some point we see that Kelly goes to Huntsville. She's from Huntsville, Alabama. Mm-hmm. She's from these parts.
Yeah.
We were trying to figure out where they lived. I thought it was Ohio. Misty thinks it's North Carolina, but I think they live in North Carolina now.
Okay.
They've moved to, in fact, I'm pretty sure that's the case because they live in a city where a friend of mine lives.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure they moved from Ohio to North Carolina. In any case, it doesn't really even matter. She travels down to Huntsville to see her family who cannot understand courtship
And
like
who
the rest
are
of the normal world.
About Precious.
Or not even, you know what? It's not even courtship that they don't understand. It's this brand of courtship.
They don't understand why their 33-year-old daughter, who is mature enough to have a job, mature enough to have, at one time, her own home, has now decided to put her life in the hands of
Ron Wright. And family.
Ron.
Big Kiss, beforethekiss.com.
Who doesn't even know what a crust white strip is.
Misty, that is... You gonna survive?
God's punishing me.
Yes, he is.
It's neither here nor there, but they're yellow.
She has a lovely family, and her mom seems very hurt about this whole situation. Like, why wouldn't you trust yourself or trust how we raised you to do this? Do you need a drink?
That's a good idea.
If only I had given you one already.
It wouldn't do, Avery. If she came home like that, I'd be like, Philip, grab the handcuffs. We do an intervention on her.
She's been trafficked, yeah. And stepdad was so sweet.
Oh
Her trauma comes from her parents having been divorced when she was in college.
It's a big deal, but calm down. I'm sorry. Nothing.
Absolutely, it's a big deal to see your parents divorced, especially when you're that age. But at that age, you should be equipped to handle life's curveballs.
I don't care if I had been trapped in a basement until I was in college. It would not drive me into the arms of Ron. No way,
Friends,
no how.
You would understand that sentence if you could watch 5 minutes of
If
this
you don't go
documentary.
right now.
This is your last chance.
After he asks about Obama and Beck and look at him and tell me that that's who you want making your life decisions.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. So anyway, so she goes down there. We get to meet her family. And what it shows me is that
I'm pretty sure he's
she
got a
grew up in
dolphin.
perfectly normal home.
He's got a dolphin tattoo somewhere.
There's no question about it. There's no question about it. The question is, where is that tattoo located? And now,
Tramp stamp.
I never want to think about that ever again.
I never do either.
Let's never talk about that ever again. All right. It just seems to me that she was not prepared. Let's see. I made a note. Okay, I'm gonna have to cut that out because I'm not getting my thought out. She was not prepared.
Let me clear my throat.
I loved that her stepdad challenged her.
He was crying.
And he was so sweet about it. He wasn't ugly. He just was like, I don't understand why you don't think you can make these decisions. And she tries to explain to him, and he says, but why can't you do that?
Well, and
why
then,
does he have to do that?
Well, and then he even goes as far as to say, if that's what you need, if you just need an advocate, if you just need somebody, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yes, and
I'll protect you. I will do that for you.
And let me tell you, the way this man talked to Kelly, that was love.
Yeah.
The way Ron talks to and about Kelly, that is ownership.
Well, Ron's idea of the perfect woman is, can she cook?
Mm-hmm.
Can she clean?
Mm-hmm.
Can she homeschool?
And can she have babies, first of all?
Can she have babies? And don't go to college because that's the devil.
Her girls said, his oldest daughter said, I've already decided I'm not going to college.
And they applauded her for it.
Oh, yes. They're very excited about that. They're planning on having her there until she's married.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved away from home right after college. But if I had been at home right after college, typically I would have just, because of our culture, you just live at home until you're married.
Right.
This is not that. Mm-mm. This is not that.
No.
This is
you can't care for yourself.
This is you can't, only a man can do
because you're a
that for
woman
you.
and there's just no way.
Yeah, the cultural situation is family takes care of each other.
Right, families
What
takes
he's
care of family.
doing is, I'm a man, and God has called me, and I am the only one that can take care of you.
You're not capable of
You're not
living
capable.
outside of this house.
Yeah, in fact, when we get back to Ohio or to wherever she is, it shows she's really starting to fall for Ross. Mm-hmm. And she says that she believes that if she were to marry Ross, she's giving up the right to have her own rights. Now, this is not the same thing as having what we say in Sunday school, which is a Sunday school teacher that taught me to have a funeral every morning, to die to self.
Right.
This is not that.
No.
This is not that.
No.
This is not humility. This is enslavement.
This is your husband's your God.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. This is, and that's what I mean by this twisting of scripture. I don't know if that's what she's saying that she's basing this on. I'm not sure. I imagine that the scripture that says, you die to yourself. This is not that.
No.
This is such a misconstruction of what that means. And so anyway,
And
go ahead.
Well, and I want people to understand, I believe wholeheartedly in Scripture. And I've messed around with my husband a lot about, he loves to talk about the head of the household and all this kind of stuff because, I don't be liking that kind of stuff. But I believe in that.
Sure, there's roles.
I most certainly believe that a husband has a calling to lead his family, and that you should give your husband that opportunity. But that is in things of spiritual discernment.
Yeah.
That is in things of decisions within the home. And on the flip side of that, the Bible says that your husband is to love his wife like God loved the church.
Well, there's
and
submission on both sides.
And gave himself up for it, So the wife is included in that.
Yeah.
And so it's very much a partnership.
Absolutely. Everybody, whenever people take that verse all the time and only read that first part, but there's submission on both sides of the coin.
You both give up
absolutely
parts of yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
And in this situation, only the wife gives up everything.
Yes, absolutely. Because the man is smarter, more intelligent,
Right.
and the protector and the hunter-gatherer, and the little woman can't really do anything to take care of themselves, which... That's Misty. Let me tell you, I'm one of 3 girls. My parents are Cuban immigrants. My dad came to the United States. He wanted to go to medical school. He started over with a GED. It took him many, many years to get through medical school, and he became a successful physician. Mm-hmm. And we saw that struggle every single day, and it was instilled in us. You can do this too. Your success depends on you.
Absolutely.
You can always take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. We want you to be married, and we want you to have children, and we want you to have families, and we want you to have that loving home.
Right.
But anything can happen. And
Absolutely.
You must be ready. And I'm going to tell you, I've been fortunate that nothing has happened to my husband. We just celebrated 16 years. Mm-hmm. Both of my sisters went through some struggles in their marriages. Mm-hmm. And guess what? They're prepared. They have graduate degrees. They had careers.
Right.
They knew how to move on.
Right.
And if anything were to happen to Kelly, there's not one thing she could do. I guess she could move back in with Ron.
Right. Well, and we grew up in different kinds of households, but we were instilled with the same things.
Oh,
I mean,
just because you're a girl doesn't mean that you're less.
No.
Yeah.
And, I got married at 18. And I decided to start my marriage very early on in life, which now having children that are almost that age and one that
they're threatening
is
you.
older, I'm like, what in the world? But I made that decision, and one of the stipulations that my father gave me was, you will finish school.
Yeah.
And he said, look, you're 18. I can't make you stay home.
Yeah.
I can't tell you you can't get married.
Sure.
But I will tell you that for you and I to be okay, you will finish your degree.
Yeah.
Because you can always come home.
Yeah.
But one day I won't be here.
Yeah.
And he said, I never want you to put yourself in a position to where you have to stay somewhere because you have nothing else to go to.
Yeah.
And
so wise.
And it's just, you have to set it up that way because nothing is sure. And that's not to say your husband's going to cheat on you or your husband's going to be awful.
No.
The man could die in a car wreck tomorrow.
Any of those scenarios are possible.
Any of them.
I'm not suggesting they're likely, but they're possible.
Right.
So, and we've seen it enough in our families and friends to know we've got to be ready.
It happens, yeah.
We got to be ready. And I mean, I just grew up, it sounds like you did too, because you have a sister. No boys in our families.
Right.
We just grew up. It doesn't matter. Like, it just wasn't an issue. You can do whatever the heck you want to do.
And guess what? Our girls are full of talent.
Yes.
And worth. And they have things to give to this world besides babies.
Yeah. That's right.
And if they
now,
choose
I do
that's
grandchildren later on.
Yeah. I mean, if they choose that that's what they want to give to the world and that's it, then that's awesome. But that's their choice. That's not because they have to or because their husband told them they had to.
Or because that's their only role in this world.
Exactly.
Yeah. It is. It's when I see this, I mean, that's what this is, right? It's just, it's Handmaid's Tale. It's
absolutely. Well, and at one point her mom goes, "You really think this is God's plan?" And she goes, "Oh, 100%. I believe this is God's plan." And
everybody gets married.
Everybody gets married.
Yeah, everybody.
And her mom said to her, "Okay, well, what if it's God's plan for me to be talking to you about this right now and to tell you that there's a different way?
Yeah.
And that you're smart and you're beautiful and you can make relationships and find a husband on your own. You don't need a man to tell you who you're allowed to date and what you're allowed to do. This is not right." And she just said,
"Well, you just don't get it.
I love you, Mom. You just don't get it.
You just don't get it." Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So now we're back in Ohio where she says she just knows that she's going to give up all her rights and that that's totally okay with her. Mm-hmm. Now we get into realizing that courtship is not just for the couple.
No.
Courtship is for Ron.
Ron has fallen hard.
Dawn says she's really worried because she's worried this isn't going to work out and that Ron has already given his heart to
Ron
Ross.
has already given his heart to Ross. And he cannot imagine life without him.
Also, it's at this point that we see Dawn becomes the biggest Karen of all time. We can change her name.
Dawn.
She's now Karen.
Thanks a lot.
Let me tell you, she broke up this couple. Spoiler alert, friends. This does not work out.
For sure.
Dawn broke these people up.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ross writes this beautiful tribute to a friend of his. A friend of his brother was killed tragically on accident with the gun of like his brother's gun or something. It was some sort of really horrible, tragic thing.
I couldn't figure out what it really was.
Yeah, it was a gun accident.
It was a gun accident,
It was a brother's gun that killed the other whatever it was.
Right.
In any case, Ross writes this beautiful tribute, and he says, whatever has happened, as horrible as it is, God knew about it. This was God's plan, and we can try to make something beautiful out of it in our grief.
And his plans
He never
are good.
once dismisses the grief. He never once says, "Oh, let's move on because this is what God wanted."
Yeah.
He is just trying to make sense of it by saying,
Or God loves when people die from guns.
no, yes,
No.
correct. That's not what he said. It was, I went and read, it's still up on his Facebook page. I stalked it a little bit, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, congrats on those twins that are coming, Ross.
Welcome.
It was, I think, a beautifully written piece. Dawn is beside herself.
Because she be stalking Ross's stuff.
She's stalking Ross's stuff too. She says, how could he possibly say that this was God's plan?
Oh, yeah. And turns it into something
in
huge.
the world? She turned it into something that it wasn't.
How could you
And
be
she
married
says,
to somebody?
Kelly, I have to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
Can you believe he wrote this? If you marry this person and somebody you know dies, he may say to them, "Oh, you know what? It was God's plan, so I'm sorry he died."
You should be happy about
You
it.
should. I couldn't believe she was.
She said, and then you just have to walk away with him.
She said,
you can't even say anything.
Ironically, she says, how can anybody believe this stuff? I'm like, no, we need to have a conversation.
What a twisted faith that they're creating over there.
Yes. So then Kelly, in my mind, probably read it and probably thought like us. Mm-hmm. That is true. And as believers, we believe God does know these things, and that it's not that he's pulling these strings, but that's just not how. It's just life, and terrible things happen.
Right, and we all have free will,
and there is a greater plan than us right here, and it's really unfortunate, but that's. God's ways are higher than our ways. We don't know. We just don't know. We just kind of have to hang on for the reward, right?
He will use it for his glory.
Right. We just have to hang on for the reward. That's what I always say. Just kind of, we don't know. And so Kelly hears from Dawn, and she says, you know what? Kelly might be right, or Dawn might be right. This doesn't seem like something that I would be compatible with.
Yeah.
So she confronts Ross.
Which, when I saw that happening, I thought to myself,
I was so angry.
That's Dawn's idea.
Oh,
she said to her, you need to go and you need to talk to him about that because it's going to be your husband.
Yes.
And so out of character of Kelly, because she seems very meek and that she doesn't want to stir up a bunch of stuff.
Also, this was nothing. This was nothing. She should have just said, I'm so sorry about your friend. And you're right. God does love us and has a plan.
This is not your boyfriend that you've had many, many conversations about theology and the way you feel and heartbreak and guilt and sorrow and all these deep things. This is somebody that you said, candy corn?
She seems so pressured to talk to him about this. And it's just not something she wanted to do.
And the way she even writes, it's almost like, I really don't want to write this, but...
Also, the next thing that happens, Ross ghosts Kelly.
For real.
He's like, you know what? I forgot to tell you, I really can't come this weekend.
And it goes from... Well, he pretty much tells her, I'm done having this conversation.
Yes.
Like, we have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
It's not the way that I wrote it. But this is over. We're not talking about this anymore. So then her next comment is, I'm so excited to see you this weekend. I just love spending time with you.
Yep.
And he's like, nothing. And then she says, I hope your week's great. Blessings to you. Yep. And nothing. And then she's like, I'm excited to see you this weekend because...
Take a hint, Kelly.
He still hasn't said anything. And he says, so sorry. We're busy.
Yep.
Ouch.
Yeah. She goes, hey, did I miss something? Because I've been trying to message you.
Did I miss something?
Yeah. And you know what? Here again, we get back to, I just feel this rejection. I just feel like I'm not good enough. And I'm like,
right.
Whose fault is this? Dawn. It's Dawn.
Yeah.
And yes. Anyway, that is it just angers me that they've put her in this position.
Yeah.
And so the next thing we know, Ross ghosts her. And so Ross asks to meet with Ron, and this is where we kind of know what's about to go down. The very best thing that happens here at this meeting, first of all, I don't know where the heck they're traveling, but it seems like they travel really far to go meet at some huddle house somewhere.
I mean, they're always at a Denny's.
Okay, yes. Okay, Misty. Misty. Friends, I need for you to please go watch this. I'm telling you, please go watch this. Go to the very end almost, probably like the last 10 minutes or so. Ross walks in at this huddle house or Denny's. Ron scooches out of his booth as best as he can,
which is a half circle 8-person booth. Yes. So it takes him a minute to get out.
He's on the person 4, so he's got to come.
He's got to scoot it
all around,
and even to the point that the guy just reaches his hand out to shake his hand, and he's like, "Oh, hold up!
I need a hug." Ron Wright, grown man,
I need a hug,
comes out of the booth to hug his new boyfriend.
Hugs him. Then gets back in the booth and says to him, and I quote, "Where'd you learn to hug like that?"
Oh my God.
Poor sweet Ross looks so confused.
My mom?
My mom?
Because you give the best hugs.
You give the best. He said, do I?
Yeah. Oh, how do you answer that?
So
Here is a grown man. So Ross breaks it off. as best and as most as tactfully as he can. I couldn't say that. As tactfully as he can. He was lovely. I have to give him credit.
He did a really good job.
He did, and he confronted it head on. I think there's disagreements. I don't think we're compatible, and I just don't think it's going to work out.
And he was kind through the whole process.
He did. He was. I was impressed with this young man.
He was an upstanding dude.
Yeah, I dug Ross. And so Ron does not say, "Oh man, I'm so sorry, this isn't going to work out." He goes, "I hope we can stay friends."
Ron was heartbroken.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was terrible.
he was losing the R&R that was so important to him.
Once this meeting is over, they get back to the living room or dining room where they tell Kelly it's over.
Right.
Because Ross can't break up with Kelly. Ron has to break up on Ross's behalf.
Ross has to break up with Ron. Ron has to break up with Kelly.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. And Dawn has some great words of wisdom. She says, Kelly.
Ron is so upset on the car ride home, and he has to call
Oh, yes, he does call.
Dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Dawn has some really great words of wisdom for Kelly, and that is, you might not ever get married. Y'all, this documentary is so jacked up. It is so jacked up.
Now, mind you, we're on like year 8 or 9 at this point.
Yes.
That she's with these people.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, I think if I had stayed this long and at this point she says, you might never get married, I'd be like, peace out.
And she was so sweet. She was so stoic right there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that as soon as that camera left and as soon as Ron and Dawn left her,
She was heartbroken.
she went down into that
Dungeon.
twin-size bed dungeon. And just lost it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel my heart goes out to her because she can't see through. She can't see her worth. Mm-mm. And she does. You know, she says all the Christian things that we're taught to say.
Right.
I found my identity in the Lord, and I can't imagine being any more fulfilled than I am with Him. Mm-hmm. But everything else says otherwise in her life because she is so heartbroken and so sad, and all she wants to do is get married. Right. So it's almost like this identity that she has found in the Lord is not complete because of this desire that she has, that she has completely given up ceded to Ron to fulfill. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and she's
not satisfied, even though she says she is. She's not satisfied in the Lord, which that's a whole other conversation.
Well, and in what her ultimate role in life is supposed to be is to be a wife and a mother. If you're not going to get married, how are you a whole person if that's your identity?
Exactly.
In serving the Lord is being a wife and a mother.
Yeah.
So at that point, she's probably thinking to herself, well, I mean, if that's not what God wants for me, maybe if I never get married, maybe God doesn't see me as worthy either.
Correct.
Heartbreaking.
Yes. I'm going to tell you, and this probably comes from how I was raised, but I did not get married till I was 33 years old. Mm-hmm. And if I never got married, I would have been fine. Now, I certainly probably would have been sad. I certainly, I love my husband. I'm happy I'm married. Mm-hmm. And that was definitely God's plan for us.
Right.
Our children are beautiful. We're very fulfilled. If at her age I had found myself single, I would have been fine because I was serving God in my church.
Right.
I had a job. I owned my own business.
Right. I
was able to move forward in my life because that wouldn't have been part of it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So
would
I have dated? Would I have tried to? Companionship is obviously really important, but I would have been fine, and it comes from the fulfillment that I got.
Right.
The self-esteem that was taught to me.
Well, you and Rhett joined your lives together.
Correct. Yeah.
You did not find your life in Rhett.
Oh, and that happens even now, and I think this is true for you and Philip. Mm-hmm. And that is, you and I are sitting here right now doing something without our husbands.
Absolutely.
I have gone on girls' trips with my friends. He goes to game, like this weekend, he's going to game night. He'll go from like 6 to 11 or sometimes after calling, I'm like,
are
you coming home? Yeah. And because he has friends and we have friends together and we trust each other. And so we have identities.
Yeah.
We are our own people. And then we're our own people together.
Right.
Too. And that's just not something you see in courtship. Your complete identity, they say, is in the Lord, but it isn't.
It's in your
your
husband.
marriage.
Yeah, and it's in your husband.
Yeah.
And, you know, Philip and I even talk about this because, and I think this is why it's so important not to teach your children that they are their husband's everything and their husband is their everything, is because it's not true. I mean, Philip and I have talked a lot about things that I need as Misty and things that he needs as Philip that I can't give him and he can't give me. He can't sit down and have a podcast with me.
Correct.
He's not funny.
Start off with. Yeah.
I'm just
Number
kidding.
one.
He is funny, but he's a different kind of funny, and he doesn't enjoy this kind of thing. There are things that I talk about with my girlfriends that I share with him. I don't keep secret, but that they can pour into me in a different.
That he's wholly uninterested in.
Right, he's not interested in.
Yeah,
and,
I'll let you tell me about it, but only because I'm married to you.
Right,
Yeah.
but he can't give me the same type of advice that they can. He's not a woman.
Yeah.
Okay, and so he can't look at it from my perspective.
It's okay to have a best friend that's not your spouse.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And to me, it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, God puts different people in our lives for different reasons.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's why he tells us not to forsake the fellowship of your fellow man, because you need each other. Like, we're a family. He talks about us as family, as brother and sister.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about just husband and wife.
Yeah.
It's more than that.
Yeah.
And as important as it is, if it becomes your whole life, your whole identity, if number one, it fails, number two, if it doesn't happen, then you're left a shell of a person.
Then you're in bad shape.
You're in bad shape.
Yeah.
And I don't think God wants that.
Well, I think we've solved the world's problems again, Misty.
Could y'all come just let us lead your courtship?
For the love.
We'll let you kiss.
All right. Well,
Can I say one thing?
yes.
Just before we end this.
Yes. Oh, we need to give a shout out too.
Oh, we will. And if you don't go watch a courtship for the storyline, let me tell you, just the scenery alone.
Listen,
Is
watch
really-
Watch it for the first time with the sound on,
Uh-huh.
and then go back and watch it with the sound off.
The sound off. Well, there were times that there was such asinine comments being made that I had to tune them out and just look at what was going on around me.
Yeah.
In this home, they have a deer head up there, which I don't have any problem with. Lots of people go hunting. Why was there a hornet's nest on it?
That is an excellent question.
There
are plastic tubs everywhere.
Oh, for their homekeeping skills that they are so invested in, that this is what they're raised to do. Why do you have an open tub of Vaseline sitting on your mantle at the fireplace?
I don't want to know the reason.
I don't want to know. And what's in those plastic tubs?
Also don't want to know.
Also, I'm pretty sure I saw an extremely large bottle behind them that had something in it.
Right.
I don't want to make any assumptions.
Well, I think we probably can.
But how about I'd need a little bit too, Dawn?
Dawn, give it to Kelly.
Give it to Kelly. Maybe she'll get up out of there.
We didn't even touch on the girls' binders that they've made and how they're ready for their Civil War wedding.
My goodness. Now,
that Civil War wedding with the
if you
dresses.
just want a little bit of comic relief, these poor babies. Now, number one, they've not raised them how to take care of themselves in any form or fashion.
No.
I mean, these babies are
They're making it super easy to keep their first kiss.
They're
is
making
what
it
we're
real
saying.
super easy.
Yeah.
And but they've encouraged them to document their dreams of a wedding.
I will tell you, you hear that from people that all little girls dreamed of their wedding, and that was not me. Again, I think it comes from how I was raised. Now, I have a sister who she threw everything she could at her wedding. I mean, she had like ice sculptures and stuff. Mm-hmm. But me, I was like, I'm thinking about going to law school. And I didn't. But.
I mean, I thought about it, but I was so focused on becoming Dolly Parton, I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, well, that's just what I'm saying is if we're going to say all little girls, that's just not true.
No, if Philip Gillespie hadn't come
Yeah.
along and swept me off my feet with that 90210 haircut.
For real.
Then I would have been
Thank you,
on my
Philip.
way to Nashville in my
Yeah.
beat up Beretta. Let me go and tell you.
Then I'd be doing a podcast with a famous country singer.
Oh! Yeah.
In any case, that's just something to look out for. We didn't even touch on that. We
Yeah.
didn't touch on that. Okay, shout out of the week. I've got somebody. You don't have anybody,
I've got
do you?
one too, but you
Oh,
do
do
yours.
you?
I've done two. You do yours and I'll do mine
Okay,
next week.
I think shout out of the week. We have many wonderful listeners. Many. It's really difficult to keep up with.
Yeah.
But this week's shout out goes to Suzanne Tullis. We've been doing this
Suzanne.
podcast, Misty, for almost 1 year, if you can believe it. June will be a year.
Is it really?
Yes, we will have to celebrate.
We have to
somehow.
have an anniversary.
Yeah, we'll come up with something.
Okay.
Yes, because it was in the middle of the pandemic when we started talking about it. Remember? All right. So Suzanne Tullis, we've been doing this for about a year. She just discovered us,
And we both know
which
her.
tells me she's got me hidden on her newsfeed.
And we both know her and didn't know it.
Yes.
You know what? I think so many people have me hidden because every time I talk about it, they're like, "You do a podcast?"
Yes. Now listen, years ago, I used to only post about politics, and I learned there was a big political arc
You got hidden.
that I went through, and
Yeah.
so I got hidden a lot.
Yeah.
I've embraced it. I understand, but some of y'all don't know what you're missing now.
Yeah.
Some of y'all
Yeah.
don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
I believe maybe that's where I got caught up with Suzanne.
She's
She was
calmed
like,
down on
I am
that.
tired of your opinions, Amaryllis.
Yeah. She's calmed down
I
on
don't
that.
agree with you.
And now she posts all kind of wonderful things.
Thank you, Misty.
You're welcome.
Suzanne is a lovely, lovely, sweet lady.
Precious.
Sweet lady. And I just wanted to tell her thank you for listening. She even went and reviewed us,
I love her.
which we beg the rest of y'all to do, and you don't.
Why won't y'all do it?
What the heck? It takes 2 seconds. Give us a 5-star review, not less. If you need to critique us, please just inbox us directly. Your reviews.
Actually, don't because I don't care.
Good reviews help give us exposure, like
Yeah.
in searches and stuff.
You can find us
Yeah.
easier.
Yes, exactly.
And then we're more motivated.
Also, it makes us feel better.
Yeah.
It makes us feel good.
We're more motivated and we don't wait 3 weeks between episodes.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, Suzanne, we love you and
Love
thank you
you.
so much and thank you for listening.
Big hard eyes.
Who do you have?
I have.
Or do you want to hold it? You can. I mean, either way.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Coach Blake.
I have heard all about you.
He has been such a big fan and encourager, and he loves to talk to me about new documentaries that he's been listening to. And he
Fantastic.
actually said these words to me and made my heart grow like the Grinch. And he said, "When's the next episode coming out? Your fans are waiting."
Well, Coach Blake can't be that big of a fan because I have not seen his review come through. Coach Blake, we're still going to give you the shout out. I'm so grateful for your ears.
Yes.
Will you please put it in writing that we're awesome?
After you give your review, you can give us a documentary and we'll do a podcast on it.
Absolutely.
That's right.
But we always take suggestions. Always.
After and 5 stars.
I'm
That's
not
it.
saying that we will accept your suggestions, but we will take your suggestions.
We'll listen.
We will take, we have a list of our own, but we will always,
We'll consider it.
we'll maybe consider it.
We'll maybe consider it. Yeah.
But anyway, all right, Misty, we've been at my house now for 13 hours.
And we did 1 hour of podcasting.
And we did, well, actually.
And we did laughing and playing with cats the rest of the time.
Yes. All right, folks, we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.